here has been to the International Museum of Invisible Objects? The Invisible Museum? The Museum of Invisible Objects? The International Museum of Invisible Objects? I think you've been, Sonia. I think you were there when you were together. Imagination. Another name for it is imagination. How many of you have been to the International Museum of Invisible Objects? Perhaps a very underused resource nowadays, eh? Well, did you know they're holding a new exhibition? And the topic is community. So they've asked people to contribute with an everyday object that represents community for them. So what I'd like you to do is to close your eyes. We've got your eyes open. All right. And you're going to go back home in your imagination, and you're going to look for an everyday object in your home that represents community. And once you've found that object, you can open your eyes. And now, can you hold that object in your hands? Oh, that's good. How heavy is it? Can you show us? Is it really heavy? Or is it light as a feather? Show us. Okay. Can you show us the shape? Ooh. I wonder what that one is. All right. Can you just touch it to feel the texture, the material? Okay, so now I'd like you to turn to the person on your right. I know this is not going to work, but just you're going to turn to the person on your right. And if you haven't got a person on your right, you can turn back, or I don't know, just find someone, your teachers. You can do it. So now I'm going to give you each 30 seconds, and I'd like you to, only 30 seconds, and I'd like you to tell your partner just 3 reasons why that object reminds you of community, and then you swap, okay? Listening, comfort, yes. I don't think I need to do discussion. I mean, no, all of us community. Are you curious about my objects? Because I decided to bring my objects today. So this session, I'm going to use this object as a metaphor for community. All right? is? Sorry, you gotta shout because I'm half the house. When you get to my age, you'll understand. It's a quilt. All right, do you all know what a quilt is? And what is the purpose of a quilt? What is the main purpose of a quilt? To keep you warm. It's a blanket. Anything else? I heard comfort somewhere. Yeah, comfort. Except but the main purpose is to keep you warm. Did you know, some of you know that I like fun facts. So did you know that the oldest quilt that's been found dates back to ancient Egypt? It's quite something. So quilts have been around for a long time. For survival, to keep us warm, to protect us from the cold, to make us feel good. So today I'm going to talk to you about quilts. Just to give you a little bit of background information, I could go on for hours. I won't. On quilting. And get this, I can't sew. I can't make anything. And I'm all saying, but really I can't draw, I can't make anything. But I love quilts. And I love the history of quilts. So quilts are made of 3 layers. You have the top layer, which is the one you can see here. Okay? And that's the one with the colors and that we actually see. And it can be made of scraps, leftover material. The ones I'm really interested in are actually made of, it's like upcycling old clothes back in the 1900s. They, potato sacks, they would use that back during slavery. And those are the colors you see. Then you have the middle layer, which is called the batting. And that's what gives it warmth. And it can be made of cotton, wool, nowadays it's synthetic fibers. And then we have the bottom layer, which is a whole piece, the size of the quilt, one piece of fabric, and that's called the backing. And that's what holds the quilt. It gives it support. But then we have a very important thing. Do you know what's missing? The stitching, which is one of those things that's invisible. I mean, come on, do we ever look at stitching? Have you looked at the stitching of your clothes? Come on. Well, after this session, that's what you're going to do. You're going to examine the stitching. Stitching is something that's invisible. But what happens without the stitching? Everything falls apart. Sorry, I'm covering my cold. I'd like you to look at this quilt. Now with your partner, why do you think I chose a quilt? Alright? So, what is it about the quilt that represents classroom community for me? So I'm going to give you a minute to talk to the parents, I've chosen 4 elements of community building that I associate with quilting. Would you like a fun fact? Do you know what this quilt is called? It's called the Friendship Quilt, and it dates the second half of the 19th century. And do you know why it's called a friendship quilt? These quilts were made to give someone, and often it was to give someone when they got married. So it'd be the friends and the family would get together, because people when they get married, they need warmth. That's a good note, right? But it doesn't matter. So the friends, family would get together, and each one of those squares that's called a block. Each block would be contributed, it would be somebody in their group that would give that block. And it could be made specifically, something that connected them. I often wonder what this one is here. And that would be the present. Isn't it beautiful? Not only, another fun fact, not only is it a friendship quilt, it's also a signature quilt. Can you see that little strip, that white strip there? On those strips, the name of the person who contributed to that block has actually embroidered their name, so they're called signature quilts. And there's a type of friendship quilt, you've got to tell me to stop. There's a type of friendship quilt that's also called a freedom quilt that was given to men, not women. It was given to young men when they turned 21. Freedom. All right, so today we're going to talk about 4 elements. Can you see the different parts there? Do you notice the difference? Do you see any block that's the same as another block there? They're all unique, aren't they? That's what makes a quilt. The difference. Yeah? We're going to talk about belonging. When our students walk into the class, they ask a very quiet question. Is there a place for me here? We all ask that question when we walk into the community. Yeah? Is there a place for me here? And do you know what belonging answers? Your presence matters here. Your story, your history, your own communities. Because yes, when we walk into a classroom, we bring other communities with us, don't we? We bring family, we bring friends, our interests, our hobbies. That all comes in with us into the classroom. How many communities are there in a classroom? Difference. And belonging says each piece, remember this quilt, there's a place for each piece here. Every piece has a place, just like in a quilt. And the thing I love about quilts is that it does not erase difference. These different pieces, that's what makes the whole. And that's what makes that beautiful. Isn't it so beautiful? It is those different pieces that make the whole. Now, I'm the proud daughter, I'll say this again, proud daughter of immigrant parents who moved to Canada, Portuguese parents, moved to Canada in the late 1960s, fleeing poverty, dictatorship. And I grew up in the heart of the Portuguese community in Toronto. Toronto. I mean, I'm talking the heart of the Portuguese community with all the fashion. Do you know how they say it takes a village to raise a child? Well, it took the Portuguese community in Toronto to raise this difficult child. Because I was always out on the street. My parents worked 2 jobs a day, so I never saw them during the day. I'm an only child, so, I spent my life on the street playing, riding my bike. But every door on my street was always open. I could walk into any one of those houses and ask for food, as my parents had food for me. It's just playing and you get really hungry. But there was always a word of comfort as well. But also my community at school was very important because my school celebrated diversity. And in Canada, there's all that, multiculturalism. And they made us feel so proud of our heritage. Like a quilt, all the different pieces matter. There's a place for each piece. The quilt of belonging. How extraordinary is that? There's a Portuguese block there. This was the brainchild of a Canadian artist who went to Slovakia to find out more about her family. And when she was there, she realized the importance of connection and shared identity. So when she went back to Canada, she created this project with all these volunteers from different communities. Can you notice the hexagon shape? Here, it's not a square like the other quilt. The hexagon shape represents the carbon molecule, which all of the beings share. Not only that, it forms a beehive, like the beehive structure, which is the strongest natural structure. So you see, everything was thought out in this quilt. And what does it tell you? It tells me I belong. I am part of this country. Everyone is part of this country. Now, another thing about this quilt, fun fact, is that it's not in a museum. It travels around the country. It goes to the people. And that's quite important, this movement, it goes to the people. Now, a lot of schools were inspired. There are a lot of resources online. And this is an example of one school in the Upper Canada District where they created their own quilt. This one's a paper quilt. There are 1,000 blocks here, also the hexagons. And each block represents a student in the school from kindergarten to grade 12. And what does it say? There's a place here for each piece. There's a place here for each student. Now, I was listening to a podcast, one of the principals, he said that their display is right as you go into school, right in the hall. And as the children come in, the students, kindergarten, grade 12, as they come in, there's always a pause. There's always a pause, even if it's like a quick glance. Sometimes there's a smile. Do they see themselves? Do they see the others? Do they see themselves with the others? But what does it say? Every time they walk into the school, it says, yeah, you're home, you belong. Yeah, it's like a hug. Belonging. Now, we talked about the different pieces, yeah? We looked at how the different pieces are what make the whole. But what is it that holds? What is it that holds the different pieces? We talked about it before. It's the stitching. It's that invisible stitching. Oops, sorry. Let's go back to this. So true belonging never asks us to change who we are. Brene Brown talks about fitting in versus belonging. Fitting in means you have to adapt to the group. You have to change who we are. True belonging requires us to be who we are. Come as you are. Doesn't mean you don't have responsibility. Doesn't mean there's no accountability. But there's a place for you here, the way you are. And we were talking about care. Yeah? I see care as the invisible, that stitching. Think about it. What does care look like in your classroom? Just think about it. It's important for us to see, what does it look like? Do your students actually see it? Do they feel it? We hope so. Yeah. Think of all the things it require from our students. We expect when they come to our classes. We expect them to speak, right? Oh, in a foreign language, right? And in front of their peers, right? We ask them to fail in front of their peers. Fail, you know what I mean. We ask them to make mistakes in front of their peers. We ask them to take risks in front of their peers. Sorry, I could go on. Care, yeah? And care comes through the little things. It's not always visible. It's that invisible stitching. But often it's when we create that safe environment for our students, yeah? Those little things that say, you can take risks. It's okay, yeah? It's It's not removing challenge. No, 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 no. We challenge our students, but it's creating that safe environment. I brought another quilt. Can you look at that quilt and see your classroom communities? Can you see your students there? How gorgeous is it? This is a G's Bend quilt. Fun fact about G's Bend quilts. These are made by African American women in Alabama, a small town in Alabama called G's Bend. These women, you know, not literate. They sew, and they make these quilts. And do you see the bold colors? Do you see the irregular shapes? What holds that quilt? It's the stitching. Fun fact, these quilts have inspired artists like Andy Warhol. Yeah, so we know Andy Warhol, but we don't know this G's Bend quilters. So I like, you know, we're celebrating these incredible artists as well. This is very hard. This book is very hard to hold together. So what they do is art. You know, it's really important work as they're stitching. Yeah, one of my groups from a few years ago. Now my question, we get our students working together, right? Is a group that works together a community? So looking at this group, would you say it's a community? I'm sorry. Is it enough that they're working together? Care is what turns. What if João wants the red pen and you've got it? What are you going to do? So it's anticipating those little things and working on it, especially language. Care is also language. The language of care. And once you have your outcome, do we talk about care after that? No, we focus on the linguistic part, the project, but we need to make that care visible. What did it look like? You know, did you make space for others on that street? Did you compliment? Did you tell Joelle how nice his house is? And reflection is such an important part of learning. I believe that learning is in the reflection, so bringing that all together. Nell Noddings talks about care in education, and she says if we want to produce people who will care for another, then it makes sense to give students practice in caring and reflecting on that caring. We're working with human beings, and we've talked about that. We're working with human beings. I believe the classroom is rehearsal for real life. And I think that this work we do on care, on belonging, is just as important, if not more, than the language. So we looked at, what did we look at? Belonging. We've looked at care. Now the work of quilting, it's not my phone. The work of quilting involves people coming together. It's deciding, where am I going to put these pieces? Where am I going to get the material, the fabric? We've got agency. Agency. The human, notice the word human. The human, did I say human? The human work of making and mending, making and mending. Can you all say making and mending? Making and mending, making and mending. Because it's not just creating, it's fixing. We're work in progress, yeah? We're work in progress. Until the day we die, we are work in progress. We're making and mending, making and mending. And we're full of possibility. The Quilters is a wonderful documentary on Netflix, which I recommend. It's a 30-minute documentary, and it's about a group of men in a maximum security prison in Missouri. So we don't know why they're in prison, but we can assume it's pretty serious, right? Maximum security. They're in there for life. And these men, every day for 6 hours, they go into a sewing room and they make quilts. It's not to sell. These quilts are for children in foster care or in institutions. And every day, that's what these men do. Remember, these are men that are there for horrible crimes. But what you see in the documentary is the humanity. You see a shared purpose. Humanity, I have to say, when I'm watching it, it's like, oh, look at those wheels, they're so sweet. Oh, you know, like women or in front. Oh, but look at this clothes. So there's those mixed feelings there. But there's a shared purpose. Shared purpose. How extraordinary is that? A shared purpose. Did I say the making? The making, the mending. It's like they're there, but there's still a purpose for them. We're not giving up on them completely. Agency. Now, so thinking of this, this prison, in a place where people are defined by what they've done, their crimes, quilting helps them see who they can still become. Let's replace that word with community. Community helps them see who they can still become. What an incredible word. Isn't it such an extraordinary word? Become. Do you hear the possibility? Do you hear it? Yeah? We are a work in progress, yeah? Thinking of who our children can become. That shared purpose. Agency says that we're not just shaped by our community, we can shape our community. Where do our children get that practice? It's in the classroom, in shaping the community that they want. This is an activity I do with my students at the beginning of the year, saying your classroom is a story. What story does it tell? So they kind of create this community, the characters, what it stands for, yeah? What are the beliefs of this island? We don't teach values. No. That's not our place to teach values. Yeah? We create, we build the values, we decide together as a community which values are important here. Yeah? Together. I mean, who am I to tell them their values, right? They come with other values from home, I don't know. But together, yeah? Together we decide what community we want. Rehearsal for real life. We've got our future citizens here. You know, think of all the things they'll be doing in the future. Where do they get that practice? It's got to be the classroom, no? It's got to be the classroom. And these things are adult-led. I'm not saying that we're the authority figure there, but we are there to help them. And, you know, this is, I love what Paul says when he talks about the co-construction, yeah, together. Because we are still becoming, aren't we, as teachers, as people, as citizens, as human beings? So we're becoming together. People are contributors to their life circumstances. They're not just products of them, not just. You know, and we need to help our students, you know, prepare for those bigger communities that they'll be, you know, they'll have a major role in. So we looked at belonging, we looked at care, we looked at, now we've got voice. Do you know in a quilt, everything speaks? The colors, they speak. The materials, they speak. The patterns, they speak. The stitching speaks. Everything speaks in a quilt. Every piece speaks. I bring you a very special quilt. This is the Holocaust quilt, and this is a project by grade 5 students in Texas. So in class, they were studying the Second World War. So the teacher brought a poem by Peter Fischel, and it's based on that famous photograph in the Warsaw Ghetto, the little boy with his hands up. So Peter Fischel, who was a Holocaust survivor in Hungary, he wrote this poem. The teacher brought the poem into class, and the students learned about the Holocaust, they learned about the Second World War through the poem. And then the teacher asked the students to respond to the poem on a piece, on a square, on a block. And they can contribute with anything. Text, pictures, that's their voice. And they chose whatever they wanted to focus on. There's one that I love, it's this one, eyes, nose, mouth. Say something. Say something. I think he's telling the little boy. How extraordinary is that? It's 2 words, say something. From a grade 5 or a 10-year-old, it brings tears to my eyes. But not only that, do you know what they did? They turned it into a quilt with the help of some parents. And guess what they did with the quilt? They gave it to the poet to say thank you. And here are our voices. Peter Fischel died, this is in 2018, but a few years before he died, he donated the quilt to the International Quilt Museum, not Invisible Objects. So that's where it is right now. It's hanging, this extraordinary piece with the voices of our 10-year-olds. How do we give them a voice? But this is all connected with belonging. It's all connected with care. It's also connected with agency. It's creating that safe place. And because they're all so different, letting them have different voices. And doesn't it make it even more interesting when you go to have a look at it? Because of that, isn't it the difference that makes the whole? It's the difference that makes the whole. Paulo Freire was my Bruce Springsteen of education. He says, to speak a true word is to transform the world. And what he means by to speak a true word is to have voice, is to transform the world. And if you know a little bit about him, he went around in Brazil, he created a program during the dictatorship to working with literacy programs, adults who cannot read or write. And this is to help them find a voice, the importance of finding a voice to fight oppression. That's how they were fighting oppression, all right? Finding that voice. How do we help our students find that voice, all right? And thinking of all those different pieces, you know, how do we cater to those different pieces? And making sure they all have a voice so we have a whole. The whole being this beautiful community that we build together. We talked about belonging, right? And we talked about care, trust. We talked about supportive relationships. The invisible thread, that invisible stitching. Yeah. Notice it. You go back to class, notice it. Notice your stitching and how important it is. We talked about agency, participating in shaping shared community life. We talked about having one's perspective recognized and heard. And the voice can be very quiet as well. Voice can be silent. Yeah? We have to look at the different kinds of voices that we have in our class, not just in our voice. This is part of transformative SEL. I work a lot with SEL. I just did some training recently in FUFA. And I'm very interested in this type of SEL, social emotional learning, which is transformative, which it goes outside of the classroom community, outside of school. That brings perspective, and it brings identity, it brings equity, it brings belonging, agency, because we are shaping our world. We talked about SEL, like bringing the care, getting them, teaching them how to work together, the language they need. But, we can take it one step further and shape these really important citizens' future. The Castle website has loads of resources, and you can find out more about transformative SEL. I'll give you oh, that looks like a quote, kind of. I'll give you the QR code. Now, my question. So my title is Perfectly Imperfect, yeah? Look, that community is perfectly imperfect. But I struggled with that title. You have no idea how I struggled. Is it perfectly imperfect, or is it imperfectly perfect? Is it the same? Is it different? Homework. Think about it. Think about it throughout the conference. Yeah? Is community perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect? All right? And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. Because I think it's really nice to leave with questions. Yeah? I think it's more important to leave with questions than answers. Questions help us with the becoming. We're not done. Because my love for quilts and how passionate, I have to bring my favorite quilt. Is that okay? This is a quilt by Faith Ringgold, who I adore. Faith Ringgold was an African-American artist, quilter, writer, activist, but as the activist. I like to respect these women. They're so important. It's important to say their names. It's important to celebrate them. Is there anything that you notice that quilt? First of all, let me tell you, the quilt is the backing. It's the back here. But this is a painting color. And she does this mix of quilts and paintings. And what do you notice in this painting? Van Gogh. Is he in the front or more to the side? Is he important here? Not really. Who's important in this quilt? The women, yeah? And what are they doing? They're making a quilt. Do you know what this is called when people come together to make a quilt? It's a quilting bee. You've heard of spelling bees? It's a gathering where women, and it's really important because together they support each other. During hard times, they support each other. They listen to each other's stories. Yeah? And it's a really important moment in community. Do you recognize the women? Rosa Parks? Do you recognize Rosa Parks? Harriet Tubman? Madam C.J. Walker, Ida B. Wells, Ella Baker, and more. These are important women. We know Van Gogh. Do we know these women? Think about the work they've done. How important. Quilting. yeah? Fighting, shaping the community. But there are unsung heroes. I would suggest looking into Faith Ringgold's work. Her quilts are known as story quilts, and they become picture books. She also writes these picture books based on quilt. Tar Beach is extraordinary. Unsung heroes, those women. Come here, Sonia, please. Come join, come join. I need community right now. Who are the unsung heroes? I see a room full of them. Yeah? A room full of unsung heroes, which we're going to celebrate. Right? And we're going to celebrate by making our happy community quilt. So outside, we've got our
where we have some people, and we want you to build our own happy community quilt. So on the front part of the reception desk, you find people with a quilt, and there are some little ones and hats and other materials which we invite you throughout the 3 days.
what does community mean to you? We've got Fatima. We've got Fatima is extraordinary. Oh, that's Mike. All right, so Fatima's already started. So we hope you can help us with this quilt. And we have our final quilt, which is we're here to celebrate you. So can you join me standing up? We've got a song. And you need to, you can follow me. Here we go.
Okay, do it. I see it. Oh, come on. I'm the only one?
No sound?
No sound.
Is there a sound?
No.
No?
No.
Back there. Is it? No. No. It's okay. No, it's okay.
Anna, you can do it. Come on. 1, 2, 3.
Celebrate good times.
Celebration.
Celebrate good times. Okay. There we go. Celebrate good times. Celebration, Play for Change. Check out this organization. They support musical education for children around the world. Thank you. Thank you very much. Don't forget the quilts, and let's continue celebrating our quilters.